Hello, and to talk about the merging of open science communication analysis and genre and discourse analysis. And I will do this from the perspective of the analysis of an LSP journal in Spain. So this presentation consists of these five sections. First, a preliminary background to the topic, then some explanations about the merging of genre and discourse analysis with an online focus and an open science approach in LSP. Then the presentation of my case study based on the journal Ibérica, which belongs to the AELFE Association, the European Association of Languages for specific purposes, plus some papers from some conferences in AELFE since 2012. Then the description of some results from different angles of analysis, and then conclusions based on these results. So as a preliminary background, we could say that a very comprehensive view of LSP in Spain is given by Bueno la Justicia in 2003. She analyzed all the teaching and research projects and publications from 1983 to 2002. She chose the date 1983 because Monroy was probably the first researcher in Spain who dealt with different ESP approaches. Then our own humble contribution in 2012 by Aguado de Cea and myself, dealing with different administrative teaching and research issues in LSP. So these panoramic views of LSP in Spain have allowed us to pinpoint the emphasis on discourse and genre analysis in LSP, which is probably obvious. But we have also found that a focus on digital text and media is paramount nowadays. What about the focus on open science? So that would be a bit of the question here in this presentation. We think that this focus is also being approached more and more in Spain, in LSP. And just this conference, I noticed that 6 papers mention ESP, also specific purposes, or the expression or the collocation specialized plus a noun like languages, discourse, community, etc. And 2 other papers mention LSP. So there is a connection between open science and LSP to some extent. We can see in this preliminary background that Bueno analyzed all these works until 2003, and she found that the largest percentage of papers and conference presentations dealt with course design. And this is a very similar percentage found by us, by Aguado de Cea and myself, in 2012. In relation to the first 4 volumes in Ibérica until 2003. And the difference is that in the first 4 volumes in Ibérica, language learning and teaching is the primary focus, as you can see here in color, in the purple color. And Bueno found a lower analysis, a lower percentage in her analysis. And then in the 3rd position, we find discourse and genre analysis, and very similar percentages in both analysis. Then in our work by Aguado de Cea and myself, we found in the rest of the volumes in Ibérica up to 2012 that language learning and language learning and teaching decreased substantially, as you can see here in this graph, and discourse and genre analysis increased in the papers in Ibérica. So we see that there is a difference during the years in the first decade of the 21st century. So we may say that the genre and discourse analysis interest increased, and the focus on online genres and discourse also increased. We can see that this in LSP in relation to the analysis of websites, for example. After 2010, we see this increase rising or even going higher. You have here a focus on more topics dealing with digital academic and scientific texts in conferences like in the 13th AELFE conference in Stockholm, and also more recently in the 19th AELFE conference last year. We also had an increased interest in virtual communication and networked communication. So open science would fit in this increased interest in online genres. We see that online genres since from 2003 to 2012 represented 14.8% of the papers in Ibérica, compared to the analysis of genres and discourse, which was 38%. So our research questions in this period, 2012 to 2022, would be whether in LSP there is a larger focus on digital genres and discourses, and whether this focus on digital genres and discourses is paralleled by an interest in open science and discourse analysis. Or put differently, in other words, we could ask ourselves whether the increased popularization of science and academia through different media leads or has led to more related research and teaching in LSP. Our case study then, based on these journal articles and conference papers, is based on a systematic literature review of this corpus, plus a keyword analysis that I have done on these texts. So according to Treat and Webb and others, we could say that the purpose of this analysis is to evaluate through a qualitative approach, to summarize the broad findings into narrow points, to provide an essence of the different topics, and to provide a collective view of these works. So in our results, we see that from 2012 to 2021, there are 189 articles published in Ibérica, 28, which means 14.8% of them deal with online genre and discourse analysis, for example, Prism 2.0, and 21 others deal with open science analysis, for example, Tech Talks, and this represents 11.1% of all the papers. We see here in this graph that most of the years in Ibérica, there were more online genre based analysis published, but 2015, we see these changes. There are more open science papers. And also in 2018, there are more. And last year, 2021, there were also some more papers published on open science. So, according to these results in Ibérica, for each year we could pinpoint some of the reasons or arguments why there was more emphasis on digital discourse analysis or on open science analysis. In 2012, of course, we have the commemoration of the 20th anniversary of AELFE. So reputed scholars wrote on digital genres, on genres, offline genres as well. So we have some papers there. Then in 2013, there was a special issue about business communication genres. Then in 2014, there was an emphasis on online or digital discourse, and invited authors were dealing with this topic. And this also was also reflected in the book reviews in this year, which dealt with, most of them dealt on with online or digital discourse. And then in 2015, we see that the increase in open science papers deal with the popularization of science, with online dissemination of science, ELF, English as a lingua franca, and its comparison with local languages. The special issue in 2016 had more online genre analysis because of the issue dedicated to Tourism 2.0. And then in 2017, we had a smaller focus on genre and on open science analysis because there was a special issue dealing with metaphors. Then in 2018, there were more open science papers, an increased presence of oral genres such as TED Talks. In 2019, more papers dealt with multimodality in both written and oral genres. 2020, some papers dealt with expert and non-expert communication. And in 2021, most papers dealt with oral genres and add-on genres in open science, and this is why there was a higher percentage of open science papers. So here we can also check in different conference proceedings in AELFE since 2013. I have chosen a conference proceedings published because not every year we have published conference proceedings, but I have chosen the years when we have them. And out of 130 papers in this conference proceedings, we see that there is a low percentage in both cases for online genre analysis. You see that only 8 papers, and for open science, only 3 papers in different years. We see the different years when open science papers were published in the proceedings, and in 2015, one dealt with writing science in their own native languages for local audiences and also online. In 2019, one dealt with expert and non-expert communication from different perspectives, and included an example with interactive medical reports. And 2021 dealt with different virtual environment communication papers, but one of them focused on virtual dissemination of science. So I consider this as an open science paper. In terms of the keyword analysis in the open science and online genre corpora from Ibérica. The papers in open science have 211,569 tokens, and online genre corpus have a bit more, as you can see here. These corpora are raw in the sense that they have not been processed, they have not been filtered, so they contain many repetitions of, for example, the journal name and the titles of the articles, authors, etc. So I have done a kind of a rough analysis, but I have of course discarded all those insubstantial or non-significant repetitions. So through the statistics here, I have focused on some keywords. If we choose simple maths, log or dice statistics, we see that the keywords tend to crop in few texts. For example, TED appears a lot as a keyword, but only in 5 articles out of 21. And medical only in 4, etc. Popularization in 10, a bit more, but they don't really give us the dispersion that we need. So I chose Cohen-D as a better reference for dispersion. It is not, of course, perfect, because as we know from different scholars, like Greece, for example, the best way of doing this would be through deviation of proportions. So dividing the corpus in different parts and checking proportions, deviation of proportions in each part for the keyword dispersion. But of course, I haven't done this according to Greece. I followed Cohen-D, which I think it was good enough for these purposes, and found that science is the #1 keyword, repeating in all the papers, in 21 papers in open science, scientific 19 papers, and knowledge 20. So according to these statistics, we can also check the collocational strength of these keywords. And I have relied on Cohen-D, but also T-scores and MI, mutual significance statistics, to check collocational strength. So in terms of the first statistics, Cohen-D, we see repetitions for and dispersed throughout the papers for popular science, popular texts, popular science plus text, video. Then with using T-scores, we see science blogs as a key collocation. And using MI, we see an expression like a language, for example, English, as the language of science, but also to a lower extent, Spanish and German. German as the language of science, Spanish as the language of science. Online science video is also a key collocation. And then we have other collocations, but these occur as part of book titles or paper titles in the references. So I thought they were not significant in that respect. They are part of these titles. Even something that we would suppose to be a common collocations like open access occurs in titles only in 2 papers in this corpus. We see here the graph for the diagram for the interrelationship between science and these other collocations, popular, texts, and editing. So this next keyword, scientific, collocates with discourse according to Cohen-D statistics. Scientific American, as part of the title of the journal, is also there, but of course I consider this as less significant because of being a title. Popularization of scientific discourse is also a key expression, and then popularize scientific discourse as part of a title. Then in terms of T-scores, we see scientific knowledge as a key collocation, and preceded by the verb disseminate or communicate scientific knowledge. Also, the nouns introduction of or dissemination of, construction of scientific knowledge are important. And in the MI statistics, we find a scientific conference plus followed by presentations or papers as a key expression. Other non-relevant collocations are these: online scientific communication and knowledge, because they appear in titles of papers and books. So according to the statistics, finally we have knowledge as a keyword, collocating with asymmetries dispersed throughout the corpus as a key collocation. Then share knowledge, dissemination of knowledge also according to T-scores. Disciplinary knowledge, contribution to disciplinary knowledge or advancement of disciplinary knowledge according to MI. And of course, this is non-significant knowledge about the genome because it's in a title. Then in terms of engrams, we also wanted to explore a bit of the 3-word engrams and also 2-word engrams. We used Julian's D. It's not effective for large corpora, as we can see, or we could confirm in Biber and others. But our corpus is not big, it's not large, like, for example, the B and C. So, with Cohen D, we didn't need to divide the corpus into different parts. And we think that Julian's D is good enough for our purposes. So these are the engrams for the open science corpus. You see that the only one that is probably non-relevant, it would be Academy of Sciences, because it's the name of it's an institutional name. And here we have the engrams for the online genre corpus. You see that there are similarities, the use of, in order to, or as well as connectors or connecting phrases. But here, if we apply a different type of engram analysis by checking dispersion, a different type of dispersion, CV in this case, and with 2 words only, we find other occurrences in English, but also in Spanish for online genres. You see position number 5, de la. So we could infer here that there are more papers in the online genre corpus in Spanish in Ibérica, compared to open science papers. We can't find any Spanish engrams at the top. We find some later, but not at the top, like in the online genre corpus. And finally, we could check positive versus negative keywords in open science. As we have seen, these are the top positive keywords when we compare these to the online genre corpus. And here we have the negative keywords, meaning that these do not occur or are not relevant in the open science corpus. And here we have more. These are more relevant in the online genre corpus. So in our conclusions, we could then infer that there is an increase in relevance of open science analysis in LSP, according to our research in Ibérica. And this parallels or correlates with online genre discourse approaches. These papers that we have explored tend to deal with concepts like scientific discourse, scientific communication, expert to non-expert interaction, knowledge dissemination, knowledge construction, etc. Uh, Not so much with as we would expect, with referring to online or digital as a keyword. So, and we have this, of course, much more in online genre analysis, but not in open science discourse analysis. And the publications are written in English more in open science analysis. This also parallels the changed policies in the journal. We changed the policies about 4 or 5 years ago in the journal, and of course, English now is the required language to publish in Ibérica. It used to be also Spanish and other languages, but now we have English only. So here are the references, some of the references I have mentioned.